Hello, welcome to CLSP Politics. Sean Briscoe speaking. So, normally I talk about people getting into office. So, I thought I would take a episode and just talk about those that are leaving office. We have a ton, most actually in modern history right now, are leaving office. Some of their own, some of their own, they're going off to other seats or what have you. But I just thought I'd talk a little bit about what's actually happening. And right now, it's about 45 members of Congress that are leaving, either running for a Senate seat, from the House to the Senate, or they're running for governor. Uh, yeah, stuff like that. And then some are just peace out. Did my time, and now I'm on my way. So, but framing this as a retirement is not exactly the most accurate way to frame this. I think it's an elite exit under declining institutional returns. I think it's a much better. It's like peace out. There's nothing here for me. Maybe back in the day there was, but now not so much. Because of a few things, right? I'm going to go through a bunch of them here, but there's a lot that's led to Congress just not being a position or a place where you can go and do something and go and become president. They're like, well, wait a second, Sean. Joe Biden was in Congress and Senate forever, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah. So Obama wasn't. Bush was a governor. Clinton was a governor. Yeah. I mean, honestly, Biden is the outlier. Of course, Trump never held elected office until president, which is why his stuff's just a giant flaming ball of crap. Think about it. I mean, even Obama, yeah, he was a senator for like a minute. I used to say the reason he was easier to run for office is because he wasn't in the Senate long enough to have much of a record to beat him over the head with in the general or the primary for that matter. He ran against Hillary, who had just 40 years of either, first lady in the White House, and she was a very vocal first lady. They used that against her quite a bit. And then, Senate and all that stuff. So, I mean, she had a huge record to go after, whereas Obama, not so much. So, yeah, I mean, I really think that if you're sitting in Congress right now, looking around going, math is, if I'm here very long, I'm not going to be able to do much. I'm not going anywhere. This is it for me. And all these guys have huge egos. So, so as far as the mechanics go, you're looking at, committee chairs don't matter. Leadership controls the floor. So committees matter even less. And since committee is where all the power normally lies, if you're just a run-of-the-mill member, that's all gone. And because of the fact that the districts are so gerrymandered now, messaging and legislating is, not legislating is rewarded. Basically, being the opposition gets you more accolades and more money and maintains your seat in that position. Opposition matters more than legislation. And that is because of gerrymandering. Because there are fewer contested seats. There's what I'd say on a normal cycle, not this one, a normal one, out of the 300 plus seats, about 18 are normally in play. And that's mostly because Democrats do that commission that's nonpartisan for drawing their lines. Believe me, Republican states do not do that. So and of course, who gets it? It's going to be the people who've been there the longest, people who actually give a crap about policy, people who are like, specialists in their field, right? Because they know. But they're watching, Marjorie Taylor Greene get 90% of the footage from a committee that they do most of the legislating on. So what's the point? And this works for both parties. This is not just a Republican or Democratic thing. You see it in the Democratic side too. AOC, who I think huge AOC fan, biggest AOC fan here. I liked her when she was running in her primary. I liked her. Before she got elected. But given the positions that she's held in a lot of these committees, she's gotten a disproportionate amount of coverage. Jasmine Crockett, same thing. Also, both of these women are incredibly articulate, very, very smart, and they do not suffer fools. Is probably the best way to put that. And God bless them for it, in my opinion. So my theory basically is when Congress stops being a place where experience converts into influence, experienced members leave. It's a perfectly reasonable theory to have at this point. I think it goes beyond theory. I think it's what's happening. It's in practice. And I think we're all seeing it. And that's part of why this exodus has been happening. Kind of building on that first one, the whole middle governance, negotiating with your opponent. When everything is this all day, then there is none of that. Just can't be. When because all of the gerrymandering, you're always running in your primary, not the general. The general is where, and you see this with presidential elections, the general is where a lot of candidates, not including Trump's an outlier, that guy's, anyway. You see them kind of like go to the right or left, and then they careen into the center for the general, because you can't gerrymander the entire United States, although the Electoral College does a pretty good job of that. Because compromise is punished. It means you've given up something. You didn't die on that hill. That's why I elected you, is to die on that hill. And problem solvers are not appreciated. And I'll be honest, that speaks truth to a lot of stuff that I do too. Campaigns sometimes don't want to hear their problems and don't want to even do what needs to be done to solve them half the time. So it happens in all walks of life. In Congress, I think it's doubling down. Nobody actually wants to solve the problems because you're going to run on those problems. Like the Republicans didn't want to solve immigration because they wanted to run on immigration. It's just the way it is. So who's leaving? Well, all the people that you probably need in office, the moderates, the coalition builders, and people who are on swing districts. They don't want to put their name on a ballot and lose, because that's just human. That's a human thing, and there's lots of evidence of this. It's not it's both sides too. It's Democrat and Republican. So there's a lot of, especially Republicans. I think there's a Democrat running for governor. I'll have to look him up, but there's a ton of Republicans running for state level government. Just out of the 20 or 18 or 20 Republicans, there's like 7 or 8 of them running for statewide. And the reason is there's more power at the state level, right? State rights. And I think because, quite honestly, the federal government Not only are they walking away from the world, feels like the federal government's walking away from the states as well. Hence the ACA stuff. So the states are going to have a lot more to do with money and power and influence and all that jazz than, where they were earlier at the federal level. Um, Basically, Congress, fragmented authority, statewide office, unitary executive power. You are the governor of the state. Now, not all state governors are created equal. For example, Texas, we have a very weak governor, and I'm not just meaning our governor sucks. I mean, his powers are garbage. The two most powerful seats in Texas are the lieutenant governor and the railroad commissioner. Those are the two most powerful seats in Texas, period. None of the other seats come close. Nationalized blame, Congress, everyone hates it. That's why they have like an approval rating of like in the teens. Whereas in statewide, hey, you're my governor. I mean, in Texas, our governor is probably not as beloved as other states, but yeah, they do get reelected. So more than 50%, right? Party warfare, pragmatic. Okay. See, I like state and municipal elections because they have to be pragmatic unless you're in Texas. Most states. I like municipal government campaigns and politics. It's great. It's actually where I guarantee your city council person has more to do with your day-to-day life than any president you've ever voted for, minus like the ones that take us into giant wars and stuff. Because the trash, the pipes, the power, the roads, things you use every day, right? That's all municipal. And then of course, consistent fundraising in Congress. People, I really don't think most people know, but most congressional representatives spend at least, like on the off season, 2 hours a day on calls for donors. On the on season, it can be as much as 6 to 8 hours a day, just begging for money. Remember, I spent a lot of time talking about how expensive these races are. I just spent 2 months talking about how much these people have raised, right? You don't raise $7 million cash on hand by not doing phone calls. So statewide offices clear donor lanes. Also, a lot of statewide offices campaign finance limit. They have various different, like, so in Texas, we have no campaign finance limits. So really all you need is a couple sugar daddies and you can run your whole race. We have a governor in this state with over $100 million cash on hand. That wasn't by small donations. He has no campaign finance limits. He could have 100 millionaires just give him $1 million each. That's his $100 million. So yeah, the donor lanes are much clearer. And that is to say that in a lot of states, there just aren't a lot of checks and balances as far as donation goes. The federal level, outside dark money and PACs, which I just did a show on, and they, by the way, operate at the state level too. Just it's clear donor lanes. No better way to put it. So the evidence is clear. Massive House and Senate governor pipeline, especially strong among Republicans. But like I said, there are a few Democrats doing it. My theory is you've got ambitious politicians are not going to quit politics, right? That's not a thing. But they do have to ask what their ROI is being in Congress, where you're despised and hated because nothing gets done because of the gerrymandering and how you got your office, how you probably got in your seat in the first place, to be honest. Yeah. Not a hard, yeah. I mean, these guys want power and they're looking for it. And all you have to do is watch where the rats go, and that's where you know the cheese is going to be. Oh my God. Yeah. The media, the fundraising, the time it's exhausting. Ask anyone who's run for office, and they'll tell you it is brutal. It's 24/7. You're constantly funded, you're online, you're engaged in partisan conflict. Does not end. Usually, if you're quiet and you don't do that, you probably don't last that long. You know, so you've got, of course, older members opt out, although Lord knows they've been there forever. If they're in a state where they think, hey, the governor's seat's open, maybe I'll run for that. Or, anyone who prefers to actually govern as opposed to talk BS, probably going to leave. Right? We've seen longer serving members leaving, members with safe seats, who could absolutely stay. In fact, the vast majority of the Republicans that are leaving right now would not lose their primary. Members with institutional prestige gone because they're targets and they've been beat on. Jesus, Nancy Pelosi had her house invaded. These guys are literally doxxed and harassed 24/7. So it's hard on your family. It's hard generally speaking. So you're looking for candidates that have thick skin and can do the outrage, do that whole side of it. Now, they might want to govern and they probably have policy issues that they care about and stuff, but that's second and maybe even third tier compared to their ability to go after the right or the left, depending on what side they're on. So let's talk about the parties specifically. Talk about the Republicans and the Democrats, right? So the Republicans, they have some problems, right? They have leadership instability, right? They've had multiple speakers in a given session. I think Johnson's days are numbered. They have litmus tests and internal ideological purges. Trump did a bunch of that over there. We saw that with the Tea Party. And because of the gerrymandering, they fear their primaries way more than they fear the general election. You understand, primaries are like 5% of the voter universe participate. And that translates into like all the crazies, right? So 5%. It's nuts. So that obviously leads to exits and going for statewide office instead of where they're at, and general House chaos, which is what we've got right now. The Congress has passed like 5 things. This is the least best performing Congress since the one that served just before the Great Depression, just to give you an idea. So Democrats. So one thing to understand is the generational turnover for the Republicans happened after Obama got elected. That was the 2010. The Tea Party movement moved a bunch of the, Tea Party people, Tea Party candidates, young, dynamic candidates and then a lot of the old guys just opted out. They weren't down with the Tea Party. They were, centrists. And then, of course, through gerrymandering, they were cool as long as they had some reasonable, they could be reasonable. They would keep the independent vote. But the more radical their district was drawn, i.e. the more rural, the more the evangelicals controlled their voter base, white nationalists, well, it got harder for these moderates to hold on, especially with a black man in the White House. That was That's to this day, Obama is still living rent free inside their heads somewhere. Crazy. So, so our generational turnover is happening now in the Democratic Party. It happened for them in 2010. It's happening for the Democrats now. And so we're seeing a kind of a handing off of the baton. It's a cleaner retirement, less panic driven. Pelosi was, she didn't lose the leadership position. She handed it off and then ran again. And then now is retiring. She operated as a regular member of Congress after she was no longer the speaker. How many times can you say that about the Republicans? Not many. So, because of these reasons, the GOP just feels like it's crazy town, right? And Democrats, weirdly, because they always say, oh, Democrats aren't organized and da-da-da. That's all just talk. Democrats are infinitely more organized than the Republicans. We run a much better Congress than they do. That's why we get more done. We solved a 40-year healthcare problem. And if it weren't for, Mitch McConnell, which, by the way, owes full responsibility for all of this. 100% of this falls directly on Mitch McConnell. He can hum and, wow, I don't really approve of this Trump guy all he wants. At the end of the day, Mitch McConnell will go down in history as one of the most damaging senators in the history of our country, and it is a pretty prestigious list. But yeah, that's why the Democrats are an orderly exit and the Republicans are running for the freaking hills. And there's a prediction here, right? So 94 preceded a volatile, reorganization of parties. 2010, the Tea Party. Again, 2018, the post-Trump first administration win. Well, here we are. This one's going to be a bomber. This one's probably going to make 2018 look like, oh my God. I mean, it's going to be crazy town. Okay. So when they leave, when these experienced members all leave, there's a few reasons. These are a few of them. Loss of confidence, instability institution, expectations of turbulent elections. Basically, they don't believe they can get the work done. Their elections are crazy town, and they believe they can go somewhere else or just flat out retire and be cool and just go fishing. I mean, honestly, not a bad idea. And that's kind of my thoughts on the whole process. And this is kind of where it comes down to. Congress is losing its place as far as a place of value and where power and expertise combine, influence, and honestly, it's turning into a dead end for a lot of political careers. And when you're running and you're looking to run for office, and you've been in office, so you have a Rolodex, you have a list of individuals that you can, work with and get donors from and stuff. If you're looking at a dead-end job, probably going to move on to a different job, one that may not be so dead-end, or a place where you can hold up, a governor position where you can hold up for a few years, a few cycles, and let everything just calm down. And then you can be like, oh, I think I'll run for Senate again. Or I was your congressman and that was your governor. Now I'll run for Senate. After all this crazy town is done and works its way out. So anyway, thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. If you're running for office and you have some questions, you can email me at sean@clsbpolitics.com. I'm on YouTube. If you would like to support this channel on my YouTube, there's a PayPal link. Feel free to donate. I'm also on Substack, where you can become a member of my Substack, which I'll be doing more stuff as the year continues. So there'll be, interviews will go up there first, things of that nature. And I'm on Instagram, TikTok. For if you're watching this today or this week, it being, this, it being the 20th of January, 2026, in 4 days, I'm doing a live show, simulcasting the debate. So if you're interested in the Senate debate here in Texas, they're having one on the 24th, and I'm gonna do a live show on it. All right. Well, I hope everyone has a great day. I'll talk to you later. Bye.